Hey, good evening, and welcome to the Uptown Parlay Podcast. Now, your host, Ace.
Hello and welcome to the Uptown Parlay Podcast. I'm your host, Ace, and it is a solo dolo show. A lot of people have been sick, a lot of people haven't been able to make it, but I wanted to make sure that I went over a couple of different things going on in the sports betting community. One, the poker pro that pled guilty to better fraud, which I find very, very interesting. I'm not usually much of a I'm not usually much of a true crime kind of person, but I will definitely say I do find it interesting that he was lying to people about selling picks. He was lying to people about his system, and he finally got busted for it. So the FTC finally stepped up and caught him. It's kind of amazing. It was reported on ESPN. You can go on there and check it out. And I think it was also picked up by CBS Sports if you want to go to cbssports.com, where I get a lot of my information from. There are only 12 games this week because there are four teams on a bye this late in the season because there's no byes on Thanksgiving. Everybody played last week. I do not have our overall records from last week, but I do know that it probably was pretty. Oh, wait, I take that back. I have the week 13 results. My best bets for last week were 2 and 4 out of 6. And went 3 and 3. Malik went 3 and 3. Overall, throughout the week, I had a 50% week, 8 and 8, and went 9 and 7. Malik went 11 and 5. We crushed it last week, picking 68% winners. So I hope y'all followed him and bet those individually, even if you bet mine individually. You didn't win money, you didn't lose. Well, you didn't win more, or lose. So it was an off week for me. But I've been betting NBA and especially a lot of college basketball lines at a week before they get to conference play. Especially a lot of HBCU teams that have been getting spotted. 20 plus points. I've been taking advantage of that, especially Jackson State, and especially Howard and Hampton. They keep giving them a lot of points, and I do not understand why. These are not bad teams, and they're playing other mid majors. And I think it's just the perception of their leagues and the MEAC and the SWAC. They've been kind of, not up to snuff, but with their collectives getting going, I think it's really been having a huge effect on it. We did not pick the Packers or the Lions game, but I believe I had the Lions -3, so that ended up being a push. I also took the over, which worked out for me. And I just want to focus on the first game coming up. We got Jets and Dolphins. The Jets are the underdog. They're going down to Miami. They're getting 6.5. I'm leaning heavily on the Dolphins, so I'm going to lock in the Dolphins with that. Tyreek Hill is healthy. Jalen Waddle is healthy. Tua is healthy. Raheem Mostert is dealing with a hip injury, but he hasn't been much of a factor in fantasy or in the games. I think he has one touchdown on the year. Devon Achane has been playing great. And they've been giving a lot of underneath stuff to Jonnu Smith. So if you want to take the tight end yards over on him, that is a good prop bet I would take. I would take over 50 yards for him and over 6 receptions. The Jets linebackers are good, but being as they're playing in Miami, it's been cold in New York and in the Northeast for the past couple of weeks. It should have a huge effect on them going down there into the heat. It has been a little bit cooler in Miami, but I believe that the temperature is still warming up. When that game is played on Sunday, it will be in the low 70s. And as they want to do in this late in the year, at all times of the year, they always put the opposing team in the sun. So check the weather reports on that. One of the few warm weather teams that always holds an advantage, even in December and January, which is kind of diabolical. Next up, we have the Falcons at the Vikings. Falcons are getting 4.5 points on FanDuel. The over under is 46.5 as of this recording, which is Friday afternoon at 3 p.m. I'm going to be leaning on the Falcons. I know there's been a lot of talk of benching Kirk Cousins, and also the fact that if you look at the analytical data, he is literally not moving or taking any steps. He's still recovering greatly from his his Achilles injury. That's been a major issue with him. I believe the Falcons will cover this spread, and I think they should win this game. They're playing at the Vikings, who play in a dome. The Vikings weren't able to stop the Bears' offense, so I don't see them being able to stop. I don't see them being able to stop the Falcons' offense, who have a better running game and a capable quarterback. and everybody kind of knows what that defense is going to do, which is just rush you, rush you, rush you. And as long as you can stop that, you should be good. I wouldn't say they figured it out, but if your offensive line is able to hold up, you do need a mobile quarterback to be effective against that. But I'm not so sure Michael Penix Jr., who's recovering from that injury when they drafted him, I don't know if he's ready to start, and I don't think they're ready to go away from Kirk. It's a shame because we thought that the Falcons were going to run away with that division, but it appears that Tampa Bay still has the lead in that. But we have the Saints at the Vikings. Saints are 4.5 point favorites at the Giants. That is my lock of the week. I'm going to be betting that heavy. I think they should win by a touchdown easy. The over under is 40, and they have the best running back. They have the best quarterback, best everything except probably defensive line. I do not see the Saints losing this game. If you want to lean on the money line as opposed to the point spread, I understand, but I believe it still stands at 4.5 points or 5.5 for the Saints. Panthers at Eagles, the largest spread of the week. Eagles are hosting the Panthers. The Panthers are getting 12.5. After they showed what they did against Kansas City at home, I do believe this team can cover a double digit. I think it has gone down to 11.5. I don't know how much of a difference that makes to you, but as long as the number stays above 10, 10.5, I'm going to have to take the Panthers. They know exactly what this team is. Philadelphia has difference makers, but I don't know if they will beat them by two solid touchdowns. The Panthers will make this game short. Chuba Hubbard has been effective in the run game, and I want to count on the Panthers to cover this game. Browns versus Steelers. Once again, they are playing in Pittsburgh. The Browns are only getting 6.5 points, and the over/under is 43. The Browns' defense has been hellacious, and that has kept them in games. And I think that will not change at all, even though they are 3-9. I think we're going to get the half Jameis experience here. He will throw some TDs, and he will not make that mistakes because he understands he needs to cut down on the pick sixes. He will be delivered. I am locking in the Browns, so that is my third lock. That is my second lock of the week. That is my third lock of the week. Next up, we have the Raiders at the Buccaneers. The Bucks are favored by 7. They are at home. I like the Bucks. Not enough to lock them in, but I do like the Bucks. Next up, we got the Jags at the Titans. The Titans are 3.5 point favorites. Mac Jones will be starting again. It does not look like Trevor or Lawrence is healthy enough to go. They will be without starting linebacker Azeez Ojulari, who was suspended for 3 games by the NFL. So from a betting standpoint, that takes away one of their starting linebackers. I don't know how they're. Oh, wait, he's on the Houston Texans. My bad. Titans. Titans will have their full complement of defenders, Jeffrey Simmons, and so on and so forth. The Jaguars, on the other hand, will be without their starting quarterback. Mac Jones did fill in nicely, but they are in Tennessee, and the weather will not be as nice as it would if it was in North Florida. Tennessee has dealt with some bad weather, maybe raining, and that game will definitely be played in the mid to low 40s on Sunday. Next up, we have the Seahawks at the Cardinals. The Cardinals are 2.5 point favorites. I'm going to be locking in the Seahawks. I believe a lot in Geno Smith and how they were able to handle them at home. Jackson Smith and Jigba's coming on big. Their running game with Kenneth Walker III is huge, and DK Metcalf is looking to suit up as well. Tyler Lockett is finding his role, and this offense is just working this year. Even though they have a mid-level offensive line, their defense is playing great as they showed with the Jets. They can fight through and they can come back, and they've done it on the road and already leading the division. They win this game, I think they will lock it up, and they'll be up 2 games over everyone in the division, and San Francisco will have to chase it, which is kind of surprising considering where we all thought they were going to be at the beginning of the year. But they're all dealing with a lot of injuries. Bills at Rams. The Rams are home underdogs. They are a dome team. Whether or not be a factor, this game is being played in LA in the 4 p.m. Probably the national game of the week on CBS. The Rams are getting 4.5 points, and the over/under is 49. The Rams defense is getting slightly better with Jared Verse. The Bills defense is very rock solid. The good thing about this is they will be tested through the year. Puka Nakua and Cooper Kupp are both healthy. Kyron Williams is healthy, and Will Dissly is also healthy. They will have their full complement of receivers and tight end. So I am not. The Bills really don't need a top wide receiver as it's shown with this offense. They're kind of rolling through everybody, but I do not believe they're going to roll through. I am taking the Rams here, even though this isn't a large spread. Normally, I like to take huge underdogs like the Panthers, even if they're going on the road. That worked out for me really, really well in Week 12. I went 10-4, but I'm counting on the Rams to put up more of a fight and make this field goal game towards the end, especially due to the fact that the weather will not be. I think the Bills benefited from that a lot. And this isn't so much of a statement game for them. They're not trying to drop it, but with the fact that they've already locked up their division, at this point, the only thing they can really go for is locking up the number one seed. And even though they've beaten Kansas City head to head, they basically need Kansas City to drop a game. I don't see that happen. So I'm taking the Rams here. The Bills have something to play for, but the Rams have their season on the line, essentially. And I don't think they win another lost season after making it to the first round of the playoffs here. Now that they've finally gotten healthy with their last 5 games, they could go on a run and make it to 9 games and still sneak in at the seventh seed. Bears at the 49ers. Going to San Francisco, the Bears are only 3.5 point underdogs, even after they fired their coach. I'm leaning on Chicago here. I'm locking in the Bears. I know I'm a big homer, and isn't surprising to you, but the Bears have covered their last 4 games straight. They keep losing by 3 or less. That hook is huge. So if books are giving it to you at 2.5 or 3, tease it up to 3.5. As of this recording at 3 p.m., I'm looking at the live line and it has the Bears getting 3.5 points. And I have to stick with that because the Bears, I think, are going to have that bounce back with Thomas Brown being the OC. I don't know who's going to call the defensive play calls, but I do believe the defense has been fighting, and they've been fighting with, I believe, is against their head coach and the defenses he's been calling. And I think this team is led by the players, which is going to give them a stronger team. So they just need a coach to put them in the right positions. And I think everybody who's left will do that. And I think the fact that the head coach is on the same page as the majority of the players was usually a good bounce back with that. Uh, Juwan Jennings, CMC, and their backup running back Jordan Mason are hurt. Juwan Jennings is expected to take the field and play with that injury. The Bears have a very good defense. I do believe that the Bosa brother, Nick Bosa, is hurt. He will not be playing. And I don't know how many other injuries. Oh, their star linebacker, who was a all-pro, is still playing through his major injury for the San Francisco 49ers. They're just super banged up at this time of the year. I don't expect Trent Williams to play either, but Brock Purdy will be playing. Sorry about that, Brent, but Brock Purdy will be playing, but I'm leaning on the Bears to take this one home. Their indicator of their offensive numbers and defensive numbers is just so much better than the Rams at this point, than the 49ers at this point. We got destroyed last week, which I did not expect from the Bills. That was really, I see why that was a primetime game, and I see why it went the way that it did due to the weather and other factors, but the 49ers put up as much of a fight as they could, and it was over by the second. Chargers at the Chiefs. Chargers are going to be without J.K. Dobbins. They still have Ladd McConkey. They're a good defensive team. Joey Bosa is healthy, and he will be playing for them. The Chargers are getting 3.5. Because the Chiefs seem to be winning every single game they play by a point or two, that is the only reason why I'm taking the Chiefs. The Chargers are a very well-coached team. They're very tough and hard-nosed. They are not going to out-tough the Kansas City Chiefs at home, and I do believe the Chiefs have more weapons. But because of the pass rush and the offensive line problems they've had with their left tackle for Kansas City, I do think the Chargers should be able to cover. The over-under in this is 42.5. I think it's gone down to 40.5. I would jump on that over. That's my favorite. That under is my favorite bet on 41.5 or 40.5. I think that's rock solid. And for my last lock of the week, I'm going to be taking the Bengals over the Cowboys. The Bengals are 6.5 point favorites. And the over-under for that one is 51.5. I think they're going to blow past that. Cooper Rush, is going to look like a superstar again against this team because the Bengals have the worst defense and somehow one of the, well, I think it's the first or second scoring offense. I don't know if the Cowboys are going to win this game. They're actually not completely out of it. They still have an outside shot of being able to make the playoffs in the seventh seed. As crazy as it is, they are not mathematically a little bit of it eliminated. The Bengals very likely are, even though they're playing pretty relaxed on offense. Trey Hendrickson is leading the NFL in sacks with 11. So Cooper Rush may have some issues to worry. That's why I'm leaning on the Bengals to win and to cover. If they win this game, they should win by a touchdown. I have the Bengals winning 35-21, 35-28. I don't see the Cowboys being able to score more than 3 or 4 touchdowns in this game. And everybody's kicking game has been pretty shaky. Even considering that the Cowboys essentially playing a dome, who knows if the sun will be a factor, but it is Monday Night Football, so at least they don't have to worry about that. Those are our NFL picks of the week. And just to recap, I've locked in the Dolphins, I've locked in the Saints, I've locked in the Panthers, I've locked in the Browns, the Bears, and the Bengals. If you want to follow along and if you like any of those picks and my explanations as to why I believe they will win, please keep listening to us here at the Uptown Parlay Podcast. And I also wanted to touch on the flag planting issue in college football last week. Two important things. One, it is silly, but you are going out of your way to try to disrespect the other team. So one thing that I want to point out is if you're the head coach of the team where they're doing the flag planting, literally, if you have AstroTurf, you need to point out how silly that is. Also, when you get in the post-game interview, you can't just freeze like the Ohio State coach did. That man looks traumatized by still losing to Michigan 4 times in a row. Ryan Day looks like just a deer in the headlights out there. But the main thing you got to do is you got to take the high-low road and say, yeah, they have the right to plant the flag. It's disrespectful, but you got to say, let the baby have his bottle. Let the baby have his bottle. Because it shows the immaturity of the players and the immaturity of their coach allowing them to do that. And it's going to cause a fight because it's a heated rivalry. The media hyping it up, I find hilarious that they want to do that and turn around when these guys resort to violence. I would say the funniest one was when they had the two mascots fighting. If they're going to settle it, they should have the mascots come out after the game or before the game and have a little, have a little fun fight with the mascots, some giant boxing gloves. That'd be kind of entertaining. I would definitely watch that. And I want to shout out my UB Bulls for making this a Bahamas Bowl once again. And I hope they tear down Liberty. There is not a line on that yet, but I will be doing a bowl review and picks with those and actual statistics. And I will be posting our statistics to our blog at uptownparlay.com. You can go and check those out with the defensive ratings, offensive ratings, and their betting stats against the spread, straight up. All of that, whatever streaks they've been on throughout the season. I am big on using data here, mostly in Excel spreadsheets. Nothing too complex or complicated. Not a lot of advanced stats that I use, but the basic defensive run numbers and pass numbers and injury reports. A combination of those three things will give you a good idea of how they fill in and what the teams are running and how those things are effective against different offenses. Similar in the NBA, you got to follow the injury reports to know who's going to be out and who's going to be playing. It's the same way you can pretty much fade anything that Charlotte Hornets are going to be doing, or if the Knicks are going to be playing like a bad team right now, you can pretty much lean on the over. As long as the Knicks are going to be, they're putting the totals for the Knicks at under 220 or under 212. I think the Knicks are on a hot shooting streak right now because they're taking so many threes and they're a good shooting team as a group. They're shooting 44%, which is third in the NBA. And that's with their center taking 4 threes a game. Their center. So it's generally just working all around. Their team defense is slightly improving, but as they get more players back, it's going to improve greatly. So their defensive rating right now is in the, I want to say, low 20s. Karl Anthony Towns has been getting better at the rim and challenging shots and not fouling out. So I would lean on that. We are all Knicks fans here. We are all Knicks fans here on this podcast. So we are a bit biased, but I want to give you reasons for why I've been picking those teams. It's been working well for me this past week, but who knows going forward. As far as the college football playoff and the rankings, I do find that a bit ridiculous in how they've dropped down Miami, even though they literally won 10 games as opposed to the 2. You never really know, but it is kind of, how they've been favoring the SEC. And, that is a brand that everybody wants to see as Alabama. We can't sit here and pretend. But in terms of the conference championship games, I had Jacksonville State. They're in the first quarter and they're up 14. Conferences like Conference USA, the Mountain West, and the American, where they have to play essentially a home game to win, which I still find shocking that they allow that. I'm sorry, it's the Sun Belt. The Sun Belt, the American, the Mountain West, and Conference USA. For some reason, the only G5 group that actually plays in a dome is the MAC, which my school is a conference of. in that conference. They're going to be playing at Ford Field, I believe Saturday at noon, which is kind of perfect. It'll be on ESPN, so check that out. I'm leaning heavily on Miami of Ohio. They already beat the team. They already beat Ohio earlier in the year. They have Blaine Gabbert, or Brett Gabbert, Blaine Gabbert's little brother. He has thrown for 2,600 yards this year. Amazing, amazing college quarterback. His passing over his career has been pretty impressive. He got hurt last season, and even with the minimum amount of games he was playing, he had 14 TDs, 5 interceptions at the time, 1,600 yards. This year, he was able to play every single game, 2,600 yards, 21 touchdowns, 10 picks, and in his career, 78 TDs, 29 picks, 143 quarterback rating. Ohio's pass defense is nowhere near as good as Miami. He spreads the ball around. Miami of Ohio has a couple of receivers that literally have all between 580 and like 800 yards about. They have a 1,000-yard rusher who only has 4 TDs, because usually when he gets them there, they're throwing it in. Navarro has one receiver that kind of dominates, and that's Coleman. He's 5'11". He's out of Gilbert, Arizona. Stepped up from Northern Arizona to this team, making a name for himself. I think he will have a legitimate shot at getting drafted, so shout out to him and for getting his team here. But I think Miami of Ohio is going to be a back-to-back champion of the MAC Conference Championship. I'm also going with Texas in the SEC Championship game tomorrow at 4. Texas is -3. I would take that under, and I think that's a pretty solid pick for that one. Also, Boise State over UNLV. Whoever wins this game will be the G5 champion. UNLV has 2 losses. They are ranked. UNLV's 2 losses on the season are to a Syracuse team and to Boise State, who already beat them earlier in the year. Boise State, I believe, is going to beat them again. They are playing at home, which is kind of insane. So Boise is going to have the home crowd playing for their conference championship. I'm kind of looking forward to the move of them moving over to the Pac-12. I think it'll be a step up in competition and just a better overall experience for West Coast college football fans. And I think the Pac-12 should exist, and it should take as many teams from the Mountain West to make it a better league, make it more competitive basketball and football wise. So I'm looking forward to that in 2026. But shout out to Wazoo and Oregon State. Wazoo is going to be going to a bowl game this year, and I will definitely be checking that out. But Boise State is my lock of all these. They're only -4 against UNLV. And between Ashton and GT and their quarterback, Madsen, I think they're going to be putting up some big points on this. GT has literally 28 touchdowns on 300 attempts, 2,288 yards. He has more rushing yards than almost any other player in every other player in college football, and more rushing yards than any other program combined. Last year he had 1,200. This year he has 2,200. He ran for 1,000 more rushing yards this season in 12 games than the 11 games he played last year. 7 yards a carry. He's also doubled his touchdown output from year to year to year. I'm glad he stayed at Boise. I'm glad he was able to show up and show out like this. It's been impressive overall. Next up, I'm taking Tulane over Army. Army does have home field because they are 10-1, and the only game that they've dropped is Notre Dame. That is a big loss. Tulane lost last week to miss out on a 10-win season in the regular season to Memphis. Memphis upset them. Tulane should be coming in here to Army and giving them the business. Tulane is -4.5. I think Army is going to limit their attempts. I don't know if Tulane is as talented as a team as Notre Dame to just be able to push them around and get what they want. Both of these teams have 1,300-yard rushers. The difference with Army is that person is also their quarterback. Mensa, the quarterback for Tulane, has 2,500 passing yards. And unfortunately, their coach may be going elsewhere, but he is at least focusing to wait till after they play for the conference championship game before he starts it. I believe Tulane is going to rock them. I shouldn't say rock. I think Tulane is at least going to win this game by 10 points, which is a solid enough win for that team in the American. I'd like there to be 2 G5 teams getting in. With Tulane winning this game, they're going to be at 10-3. But even so, I still don't think that would get them in. With that being said, Marshall at Louisiana. Louisiana is the better team. They're going to be playing in Louisiana in Lafayette, 7:30 tomorrow on ESPN after the MAC Conference Championship game. Shout out to the Raging Cajuns. I'm taking them. Penn State at Oregon. Oregon's the only undefeated team in the country, 12-0. They're going to be playing in Indianapolis against Penn State. First time they're in the league, Pac-12 team in it, Big 12 team in the SEC Conference Championship game, and a Big 12 team in the Conference Championship game, and likely going to win for the Big 12 as well. It's kind of crazy how all this is going, but we have seen, crazier years as well. SMU in the ACC Championship game. I'm looking for SMU to roll Clemson. I'm looking at SMU to roll Clemson. This entire year has been about proving something for them. And I think they're going to finish with just SMU trying to beat the brakes off of them to show that they belong in the college football playoff, which is something that they really belonged there last year. They belonged in a better bowl game, being the American champion and having like 2 losses. But I guess they felt they had to give it to Liberty because Liberty was undefeated and they ran through Conference USA, even though they didn't play any power conference teams like SMU did. SMU had played them and beat them. This year, being in a power conference, SMU is getting a lot more respect. They are one of the few teams that actually beat. They are one of the few teams that actually beat Pittsburgh. They ran through their league undefeated completely. They also beat TCU. They had a very close loss at home to BYU in week 3 of the season. They've been putting up points on all the bad teams in their league, a la Stanford, Pittsburgh, Boston College, Virginia, Cal. They beat them 38-6 last week. I do see this Clemson game being a little bit closer, but the fact that SMU are dogs in this game, not by much. Oh, SMU is a favorite. I take that back. That has changed. I thought they were getting plus 2.5. The over-under on this game is 55.5. SMU plays a rivalry game with TCU earlier in the year, and they've made the ACC look good in interconference play, minus that one small loss to BYU. SMU, I think, is going to roll Clemson. The fact that Clemson lost last week, it kind of disappoints me that they're even in this position. Klubnik does have more passing yards and passing touchdowns. He has 5 picks. Jennings for SMU has 7. SMU has a much better run game, and they also have a much better defense. SMU points scored per game is 6th in the country. Their points against is 38. They give up less than 20 points a game. I could see them winning this game 35-21. I'm going to lock in SMU for this one. And those are my college football picks for Conference Championship Week. And if this holds, Jacksonville State will be looking at their first 10-9 win season as an FBS school and another conference championship for Rich Rodriguez. We'll see if he gets a step up to a Big Ten job where they've just let go of the coach at Purdue. Being as he's very familiar with that conference, I could see him moving up to there, but who knows? They haven't been picking a lot of coaches out of the Fun Belt or Conference USA or MAC recently. But shout out to y'all for listening, and shout out to all of our listeners overseas in Germany and Air Force bases. I appreciate y'all. I hear y'all. And I like the comments that y'all leave on our page and our blog. Please listen to our podcast wherever you get it. We are hosted at Podbean, but you can get it anywhere, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you may listen, Podcast Addict, TuneIn Radio, wherever you listen. Please download, like, and subscribe. All those likes do help us get to the top of the algorithm and get us more ranked, get us more views, and help us make a little bit of bread here too outside of our betting. We appreciate you, and you guys have a happy holidays. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, whatever holiday you may be celebrating to you and yours. And we're out.